dream, the waking state for you doesn't exist. Not even as a dream. It may be as a dream, I don't know. But it doesn't exist. And when you wake up from this dream state, in the waking state, then the dream state doesn't exist. Sometimes it does, remnants of it. Sometimes some things that you feel you experience in dream, you forgot that it was dream, and you're talking about in your waking state as though it was your waking state. It's all mishmash, it's all... I'm not saying to figure these things out and put things back into their
so you know that the absolute permeates every part, everything, the whole universe, therefore it must be possible to be in touch with that instantly.
So you mean meaning other than the absolute, after you get in touch with the absolute?
Yeah, there must be.
So where is your residence outside of the absolute?
My residence outside of the absolute is in the form of certain desires and things like that manifested.
Okay, let me cooperate with that for a bit.
As this kind of manifestation.
Functioning without the absolute's permission.
No, I mean obviously that cannot be discarded at all. Without the absolute, I wouldn't be here. Okay, I don't know if that's some sort of...
So which is the greater then, the absolute or the you who is here?
At this moment in time, well, on a day-to-day basis, it seems to be the me that's here. Because the
you that's here actually is the absolute, but it's in a dream believing that it is the body, and the body's conditioning and projections, and then it's believing that person sense that it takes itself to be is what's here right now. But it's with the scholarship of the absolute that thought can happen. You're the absolute.
But in that case, then, why are the desires go unfulfilled and stuff like that? And what if that's the case?
I believe that if desires were fulfilled, you would become more attached to desires. You'd keep on wanting more and more things, which don't bring you towards a recognition and a discovery of your own source self. You would be still focused on things, because primarily our desires are for things. Right now you could be desiring the absolute, so say for instance, but desires are still for things. They're still for commodity. They're still for something, objects.
So what is if the absolute is real? It's everywhere. I should be able to connect to the absolute instantly.
Yeah, this is your dream. This is a dream talking. You see, who is speaking this thing? Identify yourself with all your might. Who is speaking those words? Out of whose mouth do those words come? Who is the speaker of them? In the same way like the body is not the speaker of these words. Who is the speaker of those words?
Seems that the ego is...
you see, even as you say the words, like, yeah, it seems the ego is, those words, they come out like blanks. They don't have any potency. You just say the ego is, Yeah. If you're sure about it, if you're clear what you call ego, even can you identify ego?
It's a primal thought of I am the ego.
So, are you the ego, or something is aware of the ego? Or a mixture of two things? It seems to me that when you're sleeping, what I call sleeping, meaning ignorant of yourself, you combine yourself with the ego. And you're living somehow in this deluded state. A state of belief that I'm this person, I'm the one who has an agenda and things to do in this life, and to leave a mark in this life. These are all the kind of signature characteristics of ego, or the sense of being a person. And that is kind of a very strong, very pronounced fragrance inside our being. That we are this person, I need to do something, I need to get somewhere, this life is about something. I can't sit around being spiritual, man. There's things to be done, practical things. And there's the belief in that. There's strong identification, belief in that.
Yeah.
When there's belief in this, there's nothing that can be done to change that orientation. It must just continue, working itself out until it becomes entangled, or whatever happens to it. And then it can change direction a little bit. Such are the force of thoughts, If you believe in them, they have to be carried forward, and executed, and they have to be fulfilled somehow.
But who's believing in them?
You, the beingness. You, the absolute, in your manifestation in this body, as the feeling of being, as the feeling I am. That is your most authentic expression.
Who's these thoughts coming from?
They come out of you. Where else can they come from? Everything is in you. Everything is in you. If you drop the association, the strong hold onto the sense of I am the body, my words will feel much more full and true for you. You'll understand. Because I'm speaking to you, addressing you as the consciousness itself. But if you hold on to the body, you will not have the feeling that things can fit into me. I have a capacity. I can only fit so much food in my body. I can only do so much exercise for this body. But I'm not speaking to you as though you're just a body. I'm speaking to you as consciousness, as the awareness consciousness itself. This is your larger self. So large that the whole universe and all the beings are fitting into it somehow. Consciousness doesn't have a size,
So how do I realize that in Mooji?
How do you realize what?
The immensity of that consciousness. How do I? Okay, in that case, because the only thing that's coming between is
the only
identification.
Yes, I was about to say that. You got there ahead of me.
Okay.
Somehow there's still a stronger taste, a stronger belief, and a stronger force of identity behind your words, because somehow there's still this me sense, which is not really speaking or addressing life from the position of consciousness, but from the position of a person.
But you said earlier, a little while ago, that the thoughts have to play itself out. So if I had
they have to play themselves out until the consciousness behind them recognizes itself, and then so the relationship between the consciousness and thought dependence, that will weaken. When consciousness is only sort of like self-supplying, when it's only aware of itself, thought activity, they will reduce. They will reduce. Their impact will reduce. The characteristics of the consciousness will change.
So are you saying that
more pure again?
If one is not aware of that they are the consciousness, then if one is not aware that they are the consciousness, or haven't got any kind of inclination towards that,
yes,
you said they'll be totally governed, and lives will totally be governed by their thoughts.
Yeah, is it not true? I don't think you need me to tell you that. This is the norm. This is the way it is. It's clear that people are governed by their thoughts. They believe in them. They believe in their identity. They believe that they're the child of so and so, and that this is their job, and this is what they have to do. They were born at a certain day and time. They have a star sign. They have all of these things. All of these things are to do with the sense of individuality and of personhood. And we believe in the thoughts.
So
what you think about other people, we act upon them quite often, and how we perceive the world, our beliefs, what we believe from the newspapers, from what we watch in the news, and all of these things, something gets constructed inside ourselves.
So how are those thoughts being manifested? I mean, because obviously they don't happen instantly. I don't think I'm a millionaire and then the next minute I am one.
But the belief, most thoughts, I mean, the real place they have in our life is in the part of the belief. We believe in them. We trust them. We have, without having direct experience of the implication of the thought, We believe in the thought. We believe, okay, one day I want to be doing this, or I want to get married. I'm working towards that day. I mean, I'm engaged now, and I'm working towards marriage. So the marriage hasn't happened, but the expectation of it is happening in the mind. It's like a strive. It's always about the future, because this is how the mind can pursue something. If you did not have the space of a future to think about,
so the
you'd
mind
have to be just now somehow with your attention.
yeah.
Look at it for yourself and see. Would it be a lot quieter, or would it be more frustrating? And if there was not the space called future, if there was just the now unfolding as you go, there was not the space to project a future next week, next year, when I get this.
But the reason probably people have projected a future is because they found that to be that there is one, I suppose. At least they can count it down.
I think
by
what they
years.
do, and by really relying so much on the projections about the future, is really miss the present. Or even worse, misinterpret and reject the present. Like, it's never good now. It's never good now. It's the future is where it will become good. Nobody's ever
So how
experienced
does one
future.
live in the now? Right? Does the mind have to completely drop
Yes.
to be in the now?
Yes. Mind has to drop. Something has to drop.
Is it
Because the
identity?
now alone is, it is, whether the mind is dropped or not. It's just that the mind, which is the beingness and its belief about itself.
So the mind is just, as we said last year, is a collection of thoughts.
Yes.
But these thoughts are not unique to the being. That particular manifestation is a universal thought.
No, they become, just like the air is universal, but when you breathe it in, you say, my breath. The thoughts are just thoughts. There's just one mind field. And then somehow, when we have a relationship with certain aspects of some thoughts and some concepts, we feel attracted to them. And then somehow that attraction brings them closer. And so really we see them more, they get fluorescent in a way. And by that what I mean is that they sort of when they come around again, you'll notice them. Like I use the example that if you just buy a Volkswagen car, suddenly you start to notice that there are lots of Volkswagen cars around. But they were always been there, but you didn't notice them because you had no interest. And if you have no interest, you don't see. You don't notice. Once you have an interest now, you found something that you identify with, you start to see lots of them. You start to notice them. They didn't suddenly come into being, but in a way they do suddenly come into being experientially for you, but they were always there. And the thought active field is kind of like there in a kind of way, but whatever thoughts that you are attracted to, they will keep on coming more and seem much more private and personal to you. That's all. How can a thought belong to anybody? What is a thought that it can belong to anybody?
But how does one live in a mind world then, in that case, and interact with people who are in a situation? So that therefore pulls you into it, right? Or not?
If you're not somehow in your mind stable inside the heart, your very ground is not strong. You're not that reliable inside yourself. You're not. You'll be easily influenced also, sometimes easily influenced, because you're not aware of your core truth. You're drifting, you drift easily. And the world will seem quite real for you in that sense. You'll take so many things seriously. You lose your laughter and your play. You become somehow fixated and on circumstances, situations, people. Your energy is being pulled out quite often. You're not experiencing the peace that you could, the natural joy of being. All these things happen.
But there seems to be a desire to experience a kind of spontaneous kind of excitement as well and things like that. Isn't that?
I think if you leave life alone, you'll find it is plenty ample. It's you know it's not lacking anything if you leave life alone. If you stop projecting, because at the moment how you're speaking is as someone who is quite identified with the mind, and the mind has so many niches it can go and hide in, so many escape routes, so many distractions, and yet it presents itself and poses as though it has the capacity to be clear and to know what's going on, but it's not like that. All confusion confusion itself is the trademark of the mind, of the sense of personhood. It's true.
So, if you're speaking to the mind, then, or you speak, you said you were addressing.
I'm speaking to consciousness, but I'm speaking to the consciousness that is somehow turned towards the mind and believes and has a relationship with the mind that is, I feel, is unhealthy.
So what needs to be done?
I don't know. It's enough that there is talking about it, and if there's openness, something usually happen. Can happen without the mind deliberately trying to work at it. Something undoes the mind itself even. Even this feeling that you may be having of sort of inwardly feeling sort of a bit sleepy or whatever is just sometimes the result of your own satsang, of your own listening. Is doing something. It does something by itself. You don't have to analyze it. You don't even know. Something becomes clear.
Could it be that the mind is trying to fall asleep to avoid it?
It can be like this as well. Sometimes the mind is takes on sleep as a way of avoiding confronting this, but I don't feel that the mind will get away with that somehow if it is like this. The very fact that you speak about it exposes, the possibility of it going much further.
Well, what a mess that the mind has made, Mooji. I was going to clear that all up.
Thank God it doesn't have to clear it up. Something clears it up. Grace, you may call it. Thank God for grace. You can be so... I think sometimes when I've read in the Bible, stories of the healings of Christ, somebody had leprosy, or whatever, and he put his hand on them, or he speaks a word and they're brought back to health again. I see a deeper significance also on top of that, that sometimes it's not just a physical healing. It shows that, we can have a leprosy, a mental leprosy. And you don't have to go and take all these medicines for it. Just the grace, the touch of the Supreme, of the God. You see? Or even the Guru's grace removes that leprosy. Doesn't give you ointments for it. Doesn't tell you to take sacrificial baths or nothing. Just the grace and the trust. And it removes. I see it like this. And my heart feels very light for that seeing. And many people, they see that their lives have been torturous. And if they have to go backwards and clean themselves, they can't do it. They have no power to do it. Only grace can help you. Of course, there are people who take their lives in their hands, and they, that's also an expression of consciousness that it wants to work at its own salvation or at its own healing or whatever it is.
Grace,
and so on.
this coming back to, for grace to help you, then you have to surrender, have faith, or
it is grace. It is grace that actually manifests as your own surrender. It's grace that actually, who is to have. It's grace. To win grace. I mean, it's grace that wins grace. It's like this. It's good fortune, I don't know. Because many who receive grace, you can look and you say, but they don't look like they were worthy of grace. But they receive grace.
And grace is
grace is also
I can feel
of the self.
Yeah, right.
Grace is also of the self. Grace doesn't come from somewhere else. These things are not easy for.
At what point does grace kick in? or
I like to look at my life and your life as grace-filled life. You have a lot in the life. If you have this attitude to be happy for what has come your way, you have a healthy body. You can move about. Your mind is useful enough to contemplate yourself. All these things, you should be grateful for them. That's under grace. Grace has embodied itself in the body and calls itself Chris. It's grace. Everything is grace.
Shower of grace, river of love, ocean of peace, timeless truth, dreaming into being, this joyous